Welcome to the Weaponized Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt.
I'm Ryan Hewitt.
And today's topic is kicking off with a trend that I have seen on, I guess it's on both Facebook and Instagram. I don't know. I had to actually chat it this afternoon because Ryan didn't know what it was.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I was saying that there's this trend where I started to see like people post like 2016 to 2026, right? So like they'll post pictures from 2016 to 2026 and the difference in a decade. I guess the gist of the original idea when I looked this up was this, that you're supposed to like be able to show like growth in some area, and or it was like talking about how it was like a more like a, you know, real pandemic where it was like a lot about followers and about how the shift online has really shifted to more like people that are, quote, sharing on social, being more vulnerable and authentic than obviously before the introduction of a lot of AI stuff. But it got me thinking about like, oh, maybe we could do this for like talking about our relationship. Like, what is the difference we've seen in our relationship in the last 10 years, 2016 to 2026? Because what I was sharing with Ryan was that if you told me in 2016 that I'd be sitting here having a conversation with Ryan, I did not even think I would be married to Ryan at that point, I don't think. And I also did not think that I would be having this, especially on a podcast in front of an audience.
Well, here you are.
On our marriage.
So what happened?
So, I mean, 2016. So we got married in 2010, and we've been married for a little bit, just about 6 years, by that point. And I think at the 5-year mark of our relationship, we really started to drift in a way where there were some very significant events. The two that come to my mind right away are, number one that we've talked about very frequently on this podcast and often, because it was something that in most scenarios would break a couple, but it definitely broke us at the beginning, but it also opened us up to new definition of what our marriage looked like. And that was Ryan had an affair. And I think the big part on the affair that like I'm still there's not so much energy around anymore, but it was at the time I couldn't see it, but one of the biggest things is that as a woman, I had some signs, signals, intuition that I had around this, and I fully convinced myself that I was legit being crazy because I was thinking that this was a possibility. It turns out I was right. And I think one of the biggest lessons from that for me personally was really the power of my intuition, and about how I really started to widen this gap of trust with myself that I couldn't listen to it. Like I needed to and that I downplayed my intuition and suppressed it and avoided and ignored it. And I started to realize that this is a pattern that I have with a lot of feelings that I grew up with not feeling.
I think, well, okay, so I think what attracted you to this exercise was like 2016 was the absolute low point in our marriage. Mm-hmm. And then I think in 2026, we're at our highest point.
Yep.
Right.
So far.
So we have like a huge contrast to discuss. I mean, this could be a long discussion, but I think we're going to try to summarize into some very powerful, I think, lessons that we've each taken from this decade.
Yeah.
And I think like from my perspective, you just shared your perspective of, you suppressing your feelings and ignoring your intuition. And then for me, like I was totally unfulfilled when it came to like sex and intimacy. And I didn't realize why I wasn't getting what I wanted. So I think part of it was because you were suppressed completely, like shut down, emotionally shut down, intimately. And like the drift happened, you know, in a moment where we were just like totally disconnected. And it catalyzed the whole situation in you know, what do I do? Basically, we just hit fucking rock bottom, right? So
yeah, and we didn't have any tools or support or know how to ask for support.
Well, not only that, like we didn't even like, you know, we each didn't really know what the fuck was happening. Like we're just both just totally lost, right? And I think the what we decided on once we kind of sorted through all of the major emotion of it was that we did decide that we wanted to stay married.
Yeah. So, I think, hold on, let me speak for myself though, because I don't want you to speak for me. I don't think I was lost.
Okay.
I think that I was disconnected because I was really questioning, like, how did I end up here?
So here's what I think we need to talk about. So the work that both you and I identified, like for me, there was sedation happening. There was
in the form of what? Tell like share, because I think a lot of people could relate.
Well, there was
that.
Sedation happening. There was unresolved conflict within myself. And there was a lot of like self-loathing happening at the time. So that was my work. And then you can talk about where you were as far as like being shut down.
Self-loathing about what though? Be specific.
I will. I'm going to talk about it. Just give me a minute. And then from your perspective, like you talk about your work as far as like, you know, you share what you want, but as far as you being completely shut down emotionally, intimately, sexually, all that stuff. So from my perspective, like I figured out basically like the reason that I went down the path I went was, first of all, I had led my life up to that point just completely driven by ego and just basically like wanting to be in control of everything. And I wanted to control you. I wanted to control my business. I wanted to control like my body and everything. Like, and 2016, everything got completely out of control. And I realized it because like I was the one that was like trying to drive the bus, right? And realizing at that moment, like I had no spirituality, I had no connection with God, I had no higher power to lean on, I had no faith, right? The only faith I had was like in what I hoped I could accomplish, just driven by my own ego. And like that completely broke me, and God took me to my knees at that point. And I realized all the failures that were happening in all aspects of my life. So that was number one. I realized like that was the first time like God spoke to me, and I was listening, but I was still searching for him.
You didn't obey.
I didn't. And so secondly, this is where I realized like that I had a lot of unresolved anger. Which still is like my work to this day, but has gotten so much better. And like, I realized a lot of this anger that I had was like, was from within, like it was towards myself, but I would take it out on you. Right. Because, you know, when I didn't get what I want, you know, I'd act like a toddler and I would react. So there was a lot of reactivity and a lot of anger. And like I look back and it just like disgusts me about like the way I would talk to you, the way I would like respond and react, the way I would like treat you. And it was just like I was replaying the default programming that I just like watched or just like somehow drove my behavior. Right.
Well, you also didn't get the connection that like if you wanted me to be more sexually open to you, that the emotional connection needed to happen first.
Yeah. So this is when like I first was hearing from you, like, I'm walking on eggshells. I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
I was trying to survive you.
What the fuck does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had no playbook. I had nobody to like teach me or tell me what that means.
Or anybody that you thought you could talk to about it too.
Right. So that was number 2. And then number 3, I think like part of what has driven me my whole life was just like this fear of not being enough. And every time I would like hear you talk to me about whether it was the business or whether it was the house or whether it was anything that I was doing, it came out as like, you're fucking up. You're not being enough. You're not good enough. And like, this was like how I would hear everything come out of your mouth to me. So I would react and respond poorly because
you would translate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So everything was like, and basically that was all from just like childhood trauma. It was all just old shit that I was bringing up, and it didn't matter who my wife was. It would have just happened. I know, because this was all my work that I had to do. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's basically those things. And I think a lot of guys can relate. It's like, sometimes like for me, I'm just like, I'm a driven person. I'm persistent and I want to make shit happen. And when it doesn't go my way, like I get pissed off. Right. And I've just learned that like anger is okay. It's an emotion that lives within me and it's natural and normal. Like I don't try to suppress my anger necessarily, but I try to channel it productively and try to tame it and try to, make it work for me productively. And I found like over time, I've become like way less angry, once I've figured out how to navigate. First of all, like going from my place of business where I'm on all day long and I'm trying to make shit happen, like wearing all the hats, and then like getting home and then I have to switch modes into being like, okay, now husband, and then now I'm a dad. And like how that's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different, like I'm a totally different person. Right. So that I have to be like more calm, more stable, more still, more regulated, exactly. Emotionally regulated. And if I bring all of that reactivity and that anger and that, mostly it's intensity, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm very intense when it comes to like when I'm getting things done. And if I bring that intensity in my home, like, oh, my wife shuts down. She doesn't want to fuck me anymore. Like, oh, I'm not good enough, right? Or my daughter, like, she loves to react with anger. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, if I meet her with anger because I don't like the way exactly. But here's the thing, like, you're not going to deal with a 5-year-old trying to like control her with high emotion.
One of the favorite things that your dad ever taught us about parenting so far was he's like, never try to win an argument with a 5-year-old. I feel like it's sometimes something that like,
well, that's pretty common sense, I think.
Yeah, but you still pick arguments.
But you still find yourself arguing with your 5-year-old.
And I was like, you're never going to, he said, you're never going to win that argument.
Yeah.
No, so I think that's just like to break your state a little bit. I think that's like a good.
Yeah. I mean, so like in summary, those are like my 3 things that I can see that like was leading me to the wrong places.
Okay. Repeat them again.
So the first one is I had no faith. I had no God that I could like get quiet with and to listen to myself. And so, and if you're not often getting quiet with yourself and with looking up, just listening to God and your heart and just what's coming out of you, right? And you're just constantly sedated with like, oh, I'm just going to turn on my phone. I'm going to look at social media, or I'm going to look at sports scores, or I'm just going to like go straight to work. And then you're just busy. And you come home and you have all this like unresolved conflict within yourself that you're not dealing with ever.
Yeah. Why don't you share a little bit about, first of all, how you sedated? And then also I want you to share the, like on this lesson, specifically the faith, like when did you start to like, not be more open to it, but like, is there a specific story? I have one in mind, but I'll let you go and then I'll see if you tell it.
I don't have a specific story. I think that like Warrior introduced me to like stacking, which is basically like it's a psychological tool for you to get. It's a series of questions that helps you unearth stories that you're telling yourself and helping you turn it around and helping you like look at things from a different perspective. So that's not necessarily like leaning on faith, but it's like psychologically changing my mindset, right, into like more productive ways of thinking and acting. So there was like a series of like my own therapy I did with myself with these questionnaires and in men's groups, and exposing myself and telling the truth, right?
I kind of think of the story on the beach with the picture.
Yeah, I mean, like that was the whole Warrior Week thing, right? So like 2018 is when I went to with an event called Warrior Week, it's a week-long event, all men that have different, married businessmen with children, all in pain in different areas of their life. A lot of them with either like, their marriage or their business or with their children or all three. Mm-hmm. And, well, this was 2018. I was still really struggling with believing that I could repair my marriage and have the life of my dreams with Kendra. And, I still was like, I ruined my marriage. I've fucked my life up. I like lots of bad thoughts all the time. So this is even like 2 years after 2016, right? Mm-hmm. So,
well, I didn't find out till 2018.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess so. So 2018 is still very dark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like the moment I talked about that changed my life when it came to it was just like a bomb went off inside of me. With one of the evolutions they did was they had us all go to the beach in California, and it was like a bright sunny morning. Of course, the coaches are yelling at us and
give them a little context about what the beach is like.
Well, and like I said, it's a week-long event. It's men, but then there's coaches, right? And the coaches are there to like break you down. Right?
Yeah, a lot of them have like SEAL training.
This was already past day one where they really broke us down. So we're all just basically cracked open and just emotional and like in a place where we're sort of like rebuilding. So we're on the beach and everybody's doing army crawls on the beach. I'm probably the fittest guy there, so I'm army crawling like around people. I'm like. And the whole concept of this evolution was that you were to fight for your family. And what I didn't expect is that the coaches, of course, they do all the research on you and they all know a lot about you before this event, through like their research through social media and what you've told them, and they record things. And one of the coaches, he grabbed a picture of me and Kendra that was taken, I don't know, a couple years before at a wedding. And he put it in front of my face when we were like army crawling on the beach. And I don't know, like I was already like really cracked open emotionally, but I just remember like like a bomb going off inside of me that I just like, I realized at that moment that like I was going to do whatever it took to like fight for my marriage. Not that I already didn't think like I was there to do that, but like that was the decisive moment. And like, that's where I learned like that I was not showing up as a leader in my family. And like, that's all I ever wanted. I wanted to learn how to do that. And it like, as soon as he did that, like I took off and started crawling over everybody and got to the end and they just sent me back to do it again. I think I did it like 3 times before the last guy finished. But like, I'll remember that event clearly because like that was the moment that I knew that like I was going to do whatever it took to fix my marriage and like to change myself, to figure out what do I need to do in order to like have Kendra like trust me, be intimate with me, like open up to me, have a family with me, like build a life with me. Because at that point I feel like we were at such a like we were stuck so bad. And I think we were both stuck in our own ways. Right. And that was the start of my work at that point. And that's when I started stacking and eventually finding out, like, finding my voice, but then leaning into God and listening to like what God's plan for my life was instead of Ryan's plan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you told me that story before. So that's why I thought that it would be a good story to share, because that's the one that stands out when I think about like what the moment that you described that was that huge shift for you, when I was that story.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you shared it. And I also think like point out to like, you use the word sedation, and I think it's a word we've used definitely on the podcast, both of us at times.
Yeah. So like I wasn't sedating with alcohol.
Yeah.
I wasn't sedating with drugs.
Yeah.
Thank God, because I do have like a strong family history of addiction.
Yep.
But I was addicted to CrossFit.
Or just physical events, period. Beat down events.
Well, yeah. And part of that was I was just like trying to feel something.
Yeah.
I was literally breaking myself physically to feel something, or to like numb myself from having to think about how I wasn't stepping up, right? And I gained significance doing it because I was pretty good at it. But then, like at the very same moment, like my body's breaking down, my marriage is breaking down, my business is shitty. So, and that's when it just like that rock bottom. So my sedation was like physical fitness.
Yeah.
Right?
Also too, is that like I always think of your sedation as two things. Physical fitness was number one for sure. And I knew that, but like, I didn't know how to talk to you about it, because this was again, a place where like, I didn't know how to talk to you about much.
You didn't like how much exercise. I knew that.
Yep. And then,
because you were like, you're not doing the work you need to do to like.
Well, I also knew that like the only thing that stopped the sedation is if you were like physically breaking, right? Like, so like you fucked up your back, you fucked up like your ankle, you kept breaking things.
My knees, yeah.
And then like you would not take a break. You would then like be like, hey, how about I try this on my knee? And like, it'd be like, it's $10,000. And like, and it was like, you started patching your stuff up together, when I think, again, back to my intuition. And when I think about like feminine gifts, right? Like I was being forced those first years of our marriage to be the masculine role, because I was in survival mode. So two things here. I think that when I think about like embracing femininity, the number one thing I think about on femininity is like there is nothing to describe a clear when a woman is clear and in flow. Two things: her creativity and her intuition, and both of which I had absolutely zero time spent on a regular basis at that point in our life. There was no time for creativity. There was no fun. There was nothing about our relationship that was fun.
Completely shut off.
Yeah. And I remember moments when I was just like, dude, I would have a conversation with myself like, you used to be so fun. What the fuck happened to you? Like, and talk about like your patterns of like, I'm not enough. Then the second P that you would sedate with would be porn. And I don't say I would catch you, but again, this is back to intuition. Like I fucking knew if you weren't getting, or like I could tell when you had found release somewhere else. Now, at the beginning, I did not think it was a physical release. I thought like in terms of like with someone else. But like you started to keep this porn very secretive. And I think there's a difference between people that are using porn for like play with their partner.
Ooh, and I like that.
And then there's people that are, I knew you're going to say that and you're going to break my state. Let me focus and finish.
We can talk about that later.
Yes. Okay. And then there's a difference between like porn as an addiction. And it's so interesting that this is popping up for me right now. But when we're on our way back from the cabin, there's this one fucking billboard that we drive by all the time. And it says like, Jesus will set you free. And it's literally like, it says like, addicted to porn, Jesus will set you free or something. And I look at that and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that mean? But I think about it. And I'm like, that is a form of sedation that a lot of people would discount as not a form of numbing.
Yeah, I mean, well,
because when people think about sedation, they think about, like I said, like alcohol and numbing the side. So there's two sides of it. Sedation has two sides. It has the numbing effect, or it has like the avoidance.
It's a distraction.
And a distraction. Personally, for me as a female, one of my sedation tools it is distraction. Like I will get easily distracted by things, including things that don't really matter in the moment. And then I also, like, for me at that point, not so much talk about where we started with social media, but like one of the things for me is like I would start with social media and I'd start comparing myself to other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really big like a sedation tool for a lot of females is social media. And again, of course, like I'm not a big drinker. I don't like have that tendency, but like I can get easily what I call into void filling, meaning there is a moment of uninterrupted time, and that means I need to be doing something instead of sitting still, which is something that I'm really working on growing within myself. But when it comes to, like you said, the 3 lessons, when I just wanted to hit on that point of like where that faith came from, but also what were some of those sedation tools you were using, because I think that would be really helpful for someone listening to this, because there's a lot of people that might listen to this and be like, oh, I don't do that.
Okay, well, here's something that a lot of people do with that too, is they'll minimize it, right? So like I minimized the effects of that in my marriage for a long time. And if I look at it carefully, like I can tell that when I'm jerking off to porn and I'm not saving my sexual energy for my wife, then like I'm angry, right? So again, it comes out as like negative energy, and
you're angry at yourself.
Angry at myself. Yes, yeah. Exactly. So angry at myself, right? It's like, it doesn't serve any purpose. It's not anything but just like a total like waste of energy and focus and time that you could have been spending more productively by
connecting,
and like seducing the person that you actually want to have sex with.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, you were so shut down for so long that I saw this as my only avenue. Right. Yep. And that was the story I told myself. So
what I want you, here's what's crazy to think about it. Like, and I'm really glad we're having this part of the conversation, because I think this is going to be huge. I could sense when you would, like, when that was like really present there, right? Mm-hmm. And because we didn't communicate about it, mm-hmm. I didn't know how to talk about it. No. You would never bring this up, right? Without me shutting down. Mm-hmm. At that point in our marriage.
Well, and you were very averse to even like talking about sex, like receiving any.
It was so painful for me. Still to this day, it's still something that I'm constantly working on, like reworking and rewiring that conversation. Mm-hmm. And that has to do
something that should be enjoyable and pleasurable and fun and exciting.
Yeah, because it became more about pressure in performance. But I want to come back to the porn part, because when that was very prevalent, one of the things that would be the reason that I couldn't talk to you about is because just like it would turn you into like anger at yourself. For me, it would put me down the I'm not good enough path. Mm-hmm. Right? Is like, oh, he has to watch what he wants because I'm not good enough. And usually I am a personality. I don't know if this is common, but like I'm a personality. If I think I'm not fucking good at something, I don't fucking want to do it as often. Right? Like I am a perfectionist. I'm overcoming perfectionism on a very consistent basis in my life. I'm starting to see just how much my perfectionism has held me back in my life. Mm-hmm. And when I run the comparison loop, which again, I hate to say this, but I feel like this is part of the female psyche. Like if you are a fucking female, if you have boobs and a vagina, you walk into a room and you are sizing up the competition, not because it is a survival instinct. It is primal. Okay. Right?
Yeah, but not in your bedroom.
But here's the thing. When you have that, you like, oh, you know, like he's probably fine because he watched porn today.
That's what you would say?
In my head, that was the conversation. It's like, oh yeah, because I'm like, whatever porn he watched is probably satisfied him, right? Because I can't live up to the porn. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like that became the story of like, hey, and that like talk about fucking damaging story. Well, right? But a damaging story that we did not have the ability to have this conversation like we're having right now.
Well, the pain, the whole, like you can summarize the very problem in our marriage that, you know, right from then is sex. Sex has always been like the major pain point. And there's a bunch of reasons, right, that it like ended up being that. And like, I had talked about the things about me that I turned you off, right? So there was ways that I turned you off. Like we've talked about this before, how like I was operating as the technician in the business and I put you in the money role, and we sort of lost polarity. Not sort of, we lost polarity in our marriage because you were operating in a masculine role in our business that we co-created together. Yeah. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is that you were completely emotionally shut down with any sort of intimacy and connection with me for whatever stories you had about me. Maybe it was like, oh, he's not stepping up and producing. He's sedating with exercise. He's not paying attention to me. He's not even planning date nights. He's not like filling my bucket with my love language, which is acts of service. So there's a bunch of reasons that you were just like, I'm just going, and you not necessarily doing this on purpose, but you were just like constantly rejecting me. Yeah. Right. Even with like little, like we'd hug and you'd sort of push me away, or you'd quick kiss. Like,
because like, it turned into like, I resented you.
Yes. You had wicked resentment.
And resentment is like the poison that will just kill any relationship.
Psychologists say all they need to do is watch a couple interact for 2 minutes and they can tell whether or not they're going to be divorced within like 5 years. Yeah. Whether it's like the eye rolls or how close they are together or like how they look at each other.
Yeah. And I think, I just started to realize this, and we've started having conversations like this, and I'll end through it now because we already touched on it a bit, is that like one of the things I realized is that like for a lot of years, I was just trying to survive you. And I also, now I realize this now, when I first, like I said, it was like 2016 was when the actual affair happened, but 2018 was when I found out. And I think about it now, and it's like, I actually just told this story to a couple women a couple weeks ago. And I was sharing about how, because at that point when I first found out, I was extremely selective on people I shared that with. And again, because I didn't want their input. And the best example I can give is like, when you're about to give birth, you have to be very selective about who you ask advice from.
Okay. You weren't pregnant at the time.
Okay. No. But I'm giving, no, I wasn't.
You're going way sideways now with this.
No, I'm not. Let me just illustrate my ADHD story. Okay.
Okay.
You have to be very selective. And I was very selective and protective of who I told the story with, because some of the people that were closest to me, I didn't want their fucking advice. Because some of those people who are still in my life today, and when I say this, they probably will know who they are. They would be like, you fucking pack your shit up and you fuck that guy.
No, not fuck that. You fuck him over.
You fuck him over.
Yeah.
Okay. And the part of the story that I told was that really challenged me was when I selected Ryan as my husband. One of the things.
Out of a lineup.
that was really important to me was there was two things. One was I fell in love with his heart, and his heart at that time was bigger than his ego. And I did not want to be married to someone that's ego was so big that his head couldn't fit through the doorway. And I started to realize about 5 years into our marriage that I might have been fucking wrong about that. And the second thing that I came up for me really, really hard, again, that I was sharing in this conversation, was one of my non-negotiables, unspoken non-negotiables, was I had been cheated on in the past, and I wanted to select a person that I thought would adore me so much that they would never cheat on me. And when you did that, my frame was forced to be shattered. And I had to make a decision. So I was very selective of who the people I shared this with for that very reason of, I don't want to go to the people that are going to tell me what I want to hear. And I don't want to go to the people that are going to tell me not what I want to hear. So what I ended up doing was deciding that this is when I needed to start talking to someone else that I paid, who had no context of my past and could help me redefine what a future would look like. Because I knew in my gut, this is when I did listen to my instinct, that I did want to be married to you. But there were moments that I was like, I was constantly challenged on this belief that I was like, can I stay? Am I doing myself a disservice? What would have to change for me to want to be with him? And what would have to change for me to choose him? And the big shift for me is that I realized that I had a couple things also from my trauma, my upbringing, that I had never faced before. Number one, I grew up with a mom who literally has lived in survival mode since I've been probably, if I had to guess, my daughter's age, 5. Right? Because my dad had a really bad accident that changed his life. Then he died. I was 12 years old. And I was like, holy shit. One of the biggest things I see now is what living in survival mode actually costs you. And I see it in her life every day. I see her now. And I was like, that's the only mode I knew. So I just went into survival mode. Protect yourself, protect your feelings, avoid confrontation, walk on eggshells, because in my mind, that's what I could do to survive that version of you. But I would say in the last 3 years, something has started to shift in that story. And it's still shifting. It's not all there. But I shared with these women about how I just knew that I wanted to stay with you, but I didn't want to be judged for people being like, why would you stay with that guy that you have done all of these things with and for, and you're getting treated like that? Like, that makes no effing sense. And I had to work through that. I had trust issues with you, but the real thing that I saw beyond squelching my intuition and allowing any creativity in my life was that I really had to rebuild trust with myself. And that required me to also feel feelings that I've never confronted before, or even made time to feel, or put effort into feeling. From both a good standpoint, things like joy, pleasure, fun, and also from a negative standpoint, things like anger, rage even. Again, had a conversation with someone else about this 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about suppression of feelings. And I was sharing with this gentleman that I did not know how to get in touch with rage because it was a feeling that I avoided. And you talk about your story on the beach. I didn't realize this till, again, I shared this 2 weeks ago, that one of the openings for me was also in 2018 when you did Warrior. At that stage, Warrior also ran a program for females. And I had this coach, his name was Kevin. We're still friendly to this day. And our exercise, what Ryan referred to as evolution, was an exercise called Release the Rage. And Ryan also talked about stacking, right? Which is a journaling. It's a prompt. It's just like you would prompt GPT, where it prompts you with questions that allow you to get in touch with feelings that you would not be able to express otherwise. Now, for someone like me that has never really dug that deep into those feelings because I don't want to feel them, it took me a long time to get the gist of this exercise. So Kevin assigns this exercise, and it's called Release the Rage. And I'm in a small group of women. I think there was 8 women in my group. And everyone had to film a video and send it, post it to the group. And we were allowed to comment on each other's video. So I put my video up there. First comment from Kevin: not rageful enough, do it again. And I was like, fuck you. And then some of the other women posted their rage videos. And I was like, whoa. Okay, now I have much more of an example. One woman in particular, I was like, dude, if I was her husband, I'd be really fucking scared for my life. And so I did the video again. And then post it. Now all the girls are chiming in. I don't feel your rage. Do it again. So I remember I was like, I think I need something physical to help me get to this point, because I've never got to this point where I have touched this part of this rage. So I remember I went in my shed, and at that point I had we had some firewood out there, and there was a bat in the shed. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to freaking take this firewood, and I'm going to take this bat, and I'm going to let it out. And the release the rage part that I went off on was what I wanted to say to Ryan after I found out about his affair, and also what I wanted to say to the person that was the person that he had an affair with. And it wasn't until I let this out that I was like, I felt something move in me, that I was like, holy fuck, that's been stuck there so fucking long. And it's a feeling that I don't know how to get in touch with. It is a feeling that I've not had to get in touch with since. But it was a shape shifting for me, that I started to realize, man, I've got some feelings in there that I actually don't know how to get in touch with. And I have made it my work since to really start to A, accept that, B, work through those feelings, and C, find people that can help me work through them, so I'm not by myself doing it in my shed with a bat.
Yeah, and it's not just rage, it's like pleasure.
Yeah.
Receiving.
That's what I'm saying, is both sides, negative feelings and then also, but I'm a huge believer in, for you to be able to feel those good feelings, you have to clear the debris of the negative ones, which is the dark feelings that, like I said, I was so apprehensive. I was like, dude, I don't know how to rage like that. But I kept digging. But
it goes to the swings. The other side too is I don't know how to experience ecstasy and pleasure like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's my work right now, is can you be, and back to my mom in survival mode. That was the model I saw. It was we certainly had fun as kids. I had an amazing childhood in so many ways, but I started to realize that this is one thing that I need to rework, not only for myself, but I need to rework for Lily, because I need to teach her that, hey, you can have all these good feelings, but when you have these bad feelings, you don't get to stuff them down and keep them there. Mm-hmm. They have to come out of your system. Mm-hmm. Or else they stack up They stack up, and then before you know it, you live in a negative, constant negative.
You're just suppressed.
Like,
totally suppressed.
You're paying a price.
Where you're just
to hold that
always
in.
constipated.
Yeah. Emotionally constipated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my takeaways.
I don't know if I could summarize that.
I don't know if I could
learn how to like.
Okay, I'll summarize
learn how to feel.
So the top 3 for me, in the difference for me has been in the last decade is number 1, heeding my intuition instead of avoiding it. Number 2, feeling feelings, including all of them, and making space to do that. And I would say
including in the bedroom.
Yes. And a big thing, the big shift for me that I'm feeling that really started, I would say this last year with some of the things we added, was that the pattern of awareness of like when I am in survival mode, what are some things that I can start to do that give me some pressure release? Meaning like, if you don't have 2 hours a day for creativity, do you have 20 minutes? And what would that look like? Does it look like coloring in a coloring book with your kid? Does it look like for me right now, one of the biggest outlets of my creativity is literally doing my podcast. Mm-hmm. Like creating a show outline, creating a topic, and delivering it. Mm-hmm. And then the content that promotes it. It's been really fun for me. And I think that for you to get out of, if you are a female that's in a relationship with a male who's a leader, but maybe not leading in your home, part of it has to be that you might need to make some shifts first and then allow them the space to take the lead.
I think this is the confusion with like modern marriages, mm-hmm. right? Because I think that people are afraid to call out like what they actually want. Whether it's like as a woman, she's, saying like, I want freedom to express myself and to be creative and to produce if I want to. And I do want to make a home and I want to raise our children, but I want a man who's also not just going to provide, protect, but also mm-hmm. going to like co-create and like lead in our home, and be like a calming energy and not someone who's going to be like chaotic. Like, I think that to some people that sounds like, oh, it's very old school gender rolled, like, but in reality, like it's just natural, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like old school, like I just worked all day. I'm going to kick up my feet, kick my slippers off, baby, make me my dinner and give me my gin and tonic. And then I'll yell out to you if I need something while I watch the game. Like, I mean, that's not like people think about like
it's archaic.
They think about the Al Bundy sort of like
Archie Bunker. Yeah.
Yeah. Archie Bunker, like male, female role. Like that's not what it is. Right. However, there are like masculine and feminine, like natural, whatever you want to call it, like gifts. Right.
Yeah.
And like for us, like we don't have a traditional marriage at all. Mm-hmm. However, like we operate very strong when I'm leading, I'm stepping up, I am producing, I'm providing, I'm protecting, but I'm also leading our family. And you are like, creating a home and an environment and like, planning and like multiplying our whatever it is, our money or our experience or whatever. And we're like doing it together. Right. So mm-hmm. I think when you're focused on life together, I think when there's too much separation where it's like, you do this, I do that. Mm-hmm. Let's divide and conquer. Like mm-hmm. divide and conquer is the fucking worst way.
Which is how we ran our marriage for the first
divide and conquer is the worst way to run a marriage.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because it's just complete disconnection all the time.
Yeah. And I think about like, when you think about, like masculine and feminine. And like, this is a conversation I've been having a lot in a lot of different contexts lately, but it's like, when it comes down to it, men are about release and women are about filling up. And when you think about it,
I just
it's
think
like
about sex when you say that.
I know, and everybody does, and that's okay.
Okay.
Right? Because that's why, like, that's the primal, like, thing, right?
Yeah.
And when I think about that too, is that one of the things that really hits for me is that, again, where this is a part of me talking through the shift I'm in right now, is I realize I've come from a family of women who were very good caretakers
Mhm.
of everyone but themselves.
Mhm.
And for a long time, part of my story was they're so selfless and they need to be more selfish.
Mhm.
Because now I see the flip side of the coin.
Flip side of the coin.
God,
Oh my God, I got to write that one down.
Kenderisms. But now I see the flip side, because it's now like,
because you end up shooting yourself in the face.
Stop
instead
it.
Of
right.
shoot
No,
yourself in the foot.
Don't ruin my train of thought, please.
Okay. I think you got. I think you better.
okay.
I think you better wrap it up.
No,
at this point too.
Don't tell me to wrap it up either.
Don't tell me to wrap it up.
If they want to turn it off, they can.
Wrap it up.
Okay. So
tell me the flip side of the coin.
It is when you don't make that time, when your story becomes taking care of myself is selfish, you self-sacrifice yourself and you become a burden to other people later in your life, if you're not already.
Right.
And which is not, if your intention is to be a real giver, becoming a burden is basically your worst nightmare. Right? And then I think about how, like, what more of us women that come from that generation of very motherly type like love for other people, givers, is they don't know how to receive. They don't really know how to receive a compliment. They don't know how to receive help. They don't know how to receive love. They don't know how to receive pleasure. They don't know how to receive a gift. And it's like, my work right now is me saying, I'm a great fucking giver. Mm-hmm. But can I also become a great receiver? And I think that is part of the masculine and feminine balance of when you are out of balance is because you are actually not filling up your feminine core. Mm-hmm.
And that's the same for men. I think
in men, you're not releasing. Just like I was talking about, like in the concept of even release the rage, as masculine as that sounds, part of it is we all have masculine and feminine energy. It's the challenge is which one are you at your core? And if you are feminine at your core and you are being conditioned, taught, and allowed to only live in your masculine, it's going to shut down and shunt the feminine. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest shifts that we have had in and this is a work in progress, like we are fucking not arrived and never will be, right? We go constantly back and forth, but we're more aware of it now, of like, how can we redefine and modernize our marriage where we are able to go in and out of the masculine and the feminine? And honor that I know you're masculine at your core, no question. I know I'm feminine at my core, but I need to keep doing the work that allows me to be that feminine, to be in touch with my intuition, to allow my own personal creativity, to allow myself to receive and not just be on the giving.
And my job is to create
the environment.
Create the environment for you to be able to do that. And that's what my work, ultimately, in a nutshell, like, it's been my journey to learn how to allow you to be in your feminine, through the environment that I create. Right. Mm-hmm. Because if I allow you, and that's why you're married to me. Mm-hmm. If I allow you to just operate at default, you're just going to default into what you watched, which is your mom who's been in masculine energy for 50 years.
Yep.
Right. And I know that's not who you want to be. Mm-hmm. And I know that's not fulfilling to you. And it's totally It's not who I want you to be. It's not who I want as my wife either. Mm-hmm. Right. I like, you have so many gifts, and one of them is your creativity and your intuition, like these powerful feminine gifts. Right. But if you're stuck in like, stress and crisis and emergency and negative and being in a rush all the time and chaos, then you're basically, it's survival mode, and survival mode is not feminine, right? Survival mode is masculine, right? It's like, where are the exits? The house is burning. Let's get the dogs and the children.
You're a firefighter instead of an architect.
Sure. Yes. So let me be the firefighter. You can be the architect.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is also part of our gifts.
Write that down. All right. Wrap it up.
You wrap it up this time.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you appreciate our ramblings and our stories.
Especially my ADHD ones.
Yeah, I think this is a great podcast. So share this with somebody who you think could benefit. Huckleberry Hound's scratching at the door. He wants it.
He's like, you're done.
He's like, you guys are all done. And like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.